Welcome, dear Movie Snap World. Today, we're exploring a heartwarming and magical short film, Dumpling. This story is about a lonely mother who gets an unexpected second chance at motherhood when one of her handmade dumplings comes to life. What starts as a joyful experience soon turns into a bittersweet journey of love, care, and letting go. Let's dive into this beautiful tale filled with emotions and a unique twist. The film starts, and we see a woman who was traveling from China to Hong Kong. She was also holding a lunchbox in her hand. As soon as she reaches home, she opens all the boxes and throws away the food except for the last box. There was a small dish like momos, which this woman cleans and eats. The name of this dish is Dumplings, which is also the title of this film. We see this woman whose name is Mei. People call her Aunt Mei because she is very old, but the surprising thing is that she looks like 30s. That is, she looks young. How is this possible? And what is the reason behind her looking younger? We will know later. But the reason is very terrible. Mei not only makes dumplings for herself, but she was very famous for making them, because she used to make them and sell them to everyone, which are fresh and tasty to eat. And these dumplings were the secret of her beauty and young looks. She uses a special ingredients in the dumplings, which makes it possible. The next day, a woman, Mrs. Lee, comes to meet Mei. She used to be a movie star, but now she has come far away from her career because she married a very rich businessman, and she is living her life just as his wife because there is neither love between them nor any relationship like husband-wife. She married him just for money so that she can get good status, but now she sees this status getting out of her hands. As Mrs. Lee's age is increasing, her husband Lee's attention is moving away from her. He forms relationships with young, beautiful girls and spends more time with them. Mrs. Lee is very dejected because of this. She thinks that I am losing everything, but if I lose my youth and beauty, then I will be left with nothing. So today, she came to Aunt Mei because she learned from somewhere that there is magic in the dumplings that Mei makes. Such powers are found in those dumplings that whoever eats them starts looking young again. Such changes take place in the body that the age of a person starts appearing less. They could stop or reduce the age of a person, and they could make a person so beautiful that anyone would be attracted towards him. But she is not going to believe what anyone hears from such a person. That is why she says that, please give me any proof of this. Mei says, well, how old do you think I will be? In response, Mrs. Lee says, this is someone around 30 years old. On this, Mei says, well, my age is more than 30 years. You are not able to guess my age, so what else evidence do you want? I add such a special thing in my dumplings, which has such a magic that no other thing can give you such beauty and youth. I myself have become so young and beautiful just by eating dumplings. No cream, no lotion will give you such good results. Even if you get treatment for it, even surgery cannot give you such tremendous results. Because aging is a process in the human body a person goes through from every age and also has to grow old one day. So, to reduce aging and look younger, this process cannot be done from outside, but it can be done from inside, which I do through dumplings, for which Mrs. Lee also agrees, and now Mei present her dish in front of her. At first, Mrs. Lee was reluctant to eat it, but when she thinks about its consequences, she finally eats it. She thinks that this is the last option for me. Who knows? It may be a miracle for me. And then like this, she comes to Mei house and start eating these dumplings. Now somewhere she also gets a clue that the ingredients Mei puts in it are the meat of small animals, but she doesn't pay much attention to this thing. She didn't want to know anything else. She was only concerned with the result, and that too, very soon. And as Mei was claiming that these dumplings seemed to be the solution to her problem, she then noticed that these days my husband is going on more trips. Mrs. Lee also knew very well who he would be with on the trips, but despite knowing everything, she was going through this trouble and was living a life of sadness. But she could not do anything more. If she asks more questions to her husband about this, he will hand her a check for a huge amount, but he can do only this much for his wife. He could not give her anything more than this, neither love nor attention and time. Because of this, Mrs. Lee was becoming a victim of hopelessness. Mrs. Lee did not like dishes like dumplings before, but due to helplessness, she had to eat them today. Not only this, but now she also keeps giving Mei tips to prepare good dumplings. Make them like this. Add this thing in it, because it will make the dumplings tasty. Now a few days passed like this, and Mei was noticing a change in Mrs. Lee. Her skin was starting to look young, but Mrs. Lee wanted faster results. That is why she asked Mei to please do something like this, that I get better results overnight, to which Mei says, yes, I promise it will happen. Now when Mrs. Lee leaves, a woman comes to Mei's house, who brings her young daughter with her, whose name is Kate. From their talks, we come to know that once upon a time, there used to be a very good lady doctor. She used to handle at least 10 cases a day, although she had given up this work. But still, that woman brought her daughter Kate to Mei. Because this girl, Kate, is just 15 years old, but she is about to become a mother. And the person who has done such wrong to her is none other than her own father. And now that she is pregnant, her mother is running from door to door with her, because she wants either to give birth to her or to end her. Now Mei checks Kate. She comes to know that Kate's child is 6 months older. That is why it was very difficult for Mei to see this case, so she refuses. She says that I can't do anything about it. She advises that you should contact the black market. There you will find a hospital from where your daughter's child will either be delivered or aborted, because in that hospital, such works are also done. And I am still in contact with the same hospital. But Mei was not a doctor there. Rather, she used to steal the meat of small children from there. That is, the special ingredients in her dumplings is not of animal meat, but they are children's meat. That is, this was her secret. On the other hand, Mrs. Lee knew about that my husband was having an affair with a hotel staff. She used to come to his room every night and used to stay there. Mrs. Lee now could not tolerate this thing, so she calls Mei to her house, and she tries to explain to her that, look, I have no existence apart from my house and my husband. I want to increase my family. I am fond of children, but I don't know why this is not possible. Now, seeing her disappointment, Mei decides that no matter what happens, I will help her at all costs. On the other hand, Kate's health was also deteriorating. It was beginning to appear that she was pregnant. Her mother was very worried about Kate, so Mei decides to help her too. The very next day, she calls Kate and her mom to her house and gives birth to Kate's child, that too, without any intoxicating medicine. Kate suffered a lot, and her child came out. Seeing this, a strange smile appeared on Mei's face, because looking at this child, she thinks that this was what she needed, through which she could bring back Mrs. Lee's youth, because the child was very healthy. First of all, the thing she used to mix in her dumplings was the baby meat, which she used to steal from that hospital. But all those children were of short life, but this child was of 5 months, so he has more nutrition and more strength than them, due to which Mrs. Lit will become young overnight as she dreams. This will work like a magic. She thinks that if I had given Kate medicine to intoxicate, then all the qualities would have been lost in it. That is why Mei now stores this baby's meat in her fridge. Then the next day, when Mrs. Lee came to her house, she took out this child's meat for mixing the dumplings. For a long time, Mrs. Lee was wondering what Mei was adding to her dumpling. Today, she did not have the patience to find out, and she slowly reached the kitchen, where Mei was preparing to grind the meat finely. Seeing this, Mrs. Lee got so scared that she immediately ran away from here. Now, after seeing this, and even thinking this, she begins to vomit, that I have been eating this for so long. But then she started thinking about her husband and herself, that my beauty and looks are most important to me. As I am growing older, all these things are going. If I continue like this, then one day, my husband will definitely go away from me. So, in this situation, if this is the solution to the problem for me, then this is the right one. That is why she thought that if eating the dumplings of baby meat will keep me young and beautiful, I will not stop eating it. She controls herself and once again goes to Mei's house, where Mei adds the same meat and makes dumplings and gives it to her to eat. Now, thinking of such good results, not only Mrs. Li eats those dumplings, but she eats and also enjoys every bite. Mei was also watching her and promised that these dumplings will definitely make you what you want and will give you a new, happy life. Very soon, you will start seeing the difference in yourself. Now, Mrs. Li was feeling very good after hearing her words and eating these new types of dumplings. And then after a few days, real changes started taking place in Mrs. Li. Mei's words were becoming true because now Mrs. Li was looking so attractive and young that her husband kept looking at her, did not take his eyes off her, and also praised her that she was looking very lovely. This made Mrs. Li very happy, and after so much time, both of them spend a good time together now. Mrs. Li thinks that her life has once again become more enjoyable because her husband now gives his full attention to her, leaving his work and giving her time, which was a big thing for her. But it is also true that for every miracle, there are also side effects, i.e., bad effects and wrong results. Mrs. Li holds a party in her house where all the friends and relatives had come. They also praise Mrs. Li's beauty, but when she comes and sits in the middle of everyone, the bad smell of fish starts coming from Mrs. Li's body itself. Because of this, Mrs. Li has to face a lot of embarrassment, and she leaves the party and locks herself in the bathroom and takes a good bath. She thinks, how could Mei do this to me? She should have told me about these side effects earlier, so she calls Mei and tells her everything. In response, Mei says that she herself never knew about these side effects. Nothing like that happened to me. It is possible that this is the first time that such a thing has entered in your body. That is why it has happened. It will be fine by tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So don't get worried. Then Mrs. Li also gets relaxed due to her words, but she was unaware of the fact that her husband standing outside has heard everything that both of them were talking about. He had already suspected that my wife was taking some special thing, or any herb or medicine or something intoxicating. Now, after listening to Mei, he himself gets her information and goes to meet her the very next day. Then, Mrs. Li also gets relaxed due to her words, but she was unaware of the fact that her husband standing outside has heard everything that both of them were talking about. He had already suspected that my wife was taking some special thing, or any herb or medicine or something intoxicating. Now, after listening to Mei, he himself gets her information and goes to meet her the very next day. Then she also feeds him dumplings. Now, Li had come to know that Mei is a cannibal man-eater, and it is because of cannibalism that she is so young and beautiful. She is also doing all this with others by feeding them dumplings. Although she is 65 years old, but she seems 30 years old. But Li, who was first such person, it did not matter to him that Mei was a man-eater. He only matters that she is young and beautiful. He started liking Mei at first sight, so he starts a relationship with her. Now Mei wanted this first, because she knew how to use him and loot him. And now, after trapping him, she forms a relationship with him, because she did not want to miss this opportunity, after which both of them spend time together, and both of them start ignoring Mrs. Li completely. What else did Mei want? Such a rich man had fallen in love with her. And Li also meant beauty, and Mrs. Li could not give up chasing Mei so easily. That is why she wanted to live in contact with Mei, because now her body has got used to those dumplings. Now if she gives up eating this, then her youth and beauty will all be gone. Because she was already facing this problem. Scars were forming on her body, red spots were appearing, and she was not even able to sleep. She goes out and demands dumplings. But Mei was not ready to listen to her. On the other hand, the child of Kate Mei had given birth to was in so much pain that she dies because Mei had not performed the operation properly. Kate endured so much pain that she lost the courage And she was a child, though. That's why she died. After the death of her daughter, her mother gets mad. Her husband, who is responsible for her daughter's death and who had done wrong, she kills him. The neighbors informed the police about this. Then the police came, and Kate's mother was arrested. And when she was questioned, she also took Mei's name. But by the time the police comes to arrest her, Mei packs her things and runs away. Now, Mei was saved, but Mrs. Lee was completely trapped. She understood that without those dumplings, she would not be able to survive. If I remained alive, all my youth and beauty would be gone. Now Mei was no more. She would have to make arrangements for those dumplings herself, for which she would find a way. She finds the same hotel staff with whom Lee had an affair and finds out that the girl is about to become a mother, and she is also 5 months pregnant because Lee wanted to have this child. He made a deal with the girl that if she gives birth to a child, he will give her a huge amount. So now, Mrs. Lee goes and asks for her child from the hotel staff, saying that she wants the child of only 5 mothers. She says, "The money my husband Lee has promised to give you, I will give you the double the amount of that money." She wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 arrow. If I get this child, when this girl will not give the child to Lee, then he will leave her. And this thorn in my path will also end. And anyway, she was very hopeful that this girl will be killed during that time. And if I get that child, then with his help, I can maintain my youthful beauty. For which the girl agreed, and Mrs. Lee takes it to the lady doctor and gets this child born, exactly the way Mei got it done without any intoxicating medicine. Because she also wanted this child to be completely healthy. And as per her thinking, also the girl is killed during this process. And now, she brings home the child and then keeps him and picks up the chopper for grinding, after which she would eat him, which meant that in the end, just like Mei, Mrs. Lee became a murderer to remain beautiful. Now she does not need anyone or any other process, because in exchange of money, she will get the child always, whom after eating, she will always remain beautiful and young, which was her wish to always remain beautiful and young and to get the love of her husband, which had now become possible, and from now on, her husband will not look at anyone, but he will have love only for his wife, but the reason behind this was very terrible. And with this, the story also ends here. If you liked this explanation, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends.